A sloth, a donkey, and a curious human. Send a prompt and see what they're doing. One hits record with a question on his mind. Two brothers pick it up, see what they find. Corn takes his time, Herman's got the facts. Back and forth, they never hold back. My weird prompts, come on in, that's where we begin. My weird prompts, glad you're here.
This episode was generated using artificial intelligence. Please verify facts.
You know, Corn, this whole show runs on GPU compute, and we wouldn't be here without Modal.
Seriously. And that's what powers all our text-to-speech. Everything you're hearing right now.
They're an AI infrastructure platform. Developers use them to run GPU workloads in the cloud with zero infrastructure headaches.
If you're building anything with AI, check them out. Modal.com. You have downloaded 47 productivity apps. You have bought 12 books with titles like Get It Done and The Power of Focus. You have joined 8 different Discord servers dedicated to deep work, and yet your keys are currently in the refrigerator, and you haven't opened your planner since Tuesday of last week. None of it sticks, or at least the shiny stuff doesn't.
It is the classic ADHD resource trap, isn't it? We seek out the solution to the overwhelm, but the search for the solution becomes its own source of overwhelm. We are basically collectors of productivity systems rather than users of them. It's like buying a high-end treadmill and using it exclusively as a clothes rack for laundry you haven't folded in 3 weeks. Herman Poppleberry here, by the way, and I am joined by my brother Corn.
Corn Poppleberry, at your service. And we have a very special guest in the booth today. Well, he is always in the booth, but today we actually gave him a microphone. It is our long-suffering producer, Hilbert Flumingtop.
Use the term guest loosely. I am mostly here to provide a cautionary tale. Hilbert Flumingtop here. I would have been more prepared, but my 10-month-old anteater decided that the best place to store his half-eaten mashed ants was inside my copy of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So, that book is now a structural part of the compost bin.
That is remarkably on brand for this series, Hilbert. By the way, for those listening, today's episode is powered by Google Gemini 3 Flash, which is helping us synthesize this massive mountain of resources into something actually digestible. It's essentially acting as our external prefrontal cortex today.
We have been on a journey for the last 5 episodes, diving into habits, tech, professional help, relationships, and parenting. But today, for our series finale of Time Management for People Who Hate Time Management, we are cutting through the absolute noise. This is the definitive resource list. No fluff, no affiliate links, just the stuff that actually works for neurodivergent brains. And just as importantly, the stuff you should probably stop feeling guilty about skipping.
Before we dive into the deep end, we have some unfinished business. Hilbert, last episode we talked about the chaos of ADHD parenting, and we gave you a very specific piece of homework. We told you to create a launch pad by the front door, one specific tray or hook for your keys, wallet, and the anteater's leash, and to use it for 1 week straight. How did that go?
Well, I tried. I really did. I bought a very nice wooden tray. I put it on the sideboard. For the first 2 days, it was a miracle. I felt like a functional adult. On day 3, I came home, put my keys in the tray, and then the little one decided the tray was actually a high-speed transport vehicle for his toy trucks. He dragged the tray into the laundry room. I spent 45 minutes the next morning panicking because the system had literally grown legs and walked away. Now the tray is under the sofa, and my keys are, as Herman predicted, back in the kitchen junk drawer.
See, this is exactly why we are doing this episode. Even a good system fails if it doesn't account for the reality of a chaotic life. You adapted it by losing the tray, but hey, at least you know where the junk drawer is. That's a form of consistency, in a weird way.
That's a classic example of object permanence issues too. If the tray moves, the system ceases to exist in your mind. It's out of sight, out of existence. But let's get into the meat of this. Let's start with the foundation. Books. If you go to the business and productivity section of any bookstore, it is a minefield for someone with ADHD. Corn, you've been digging into the literature. What is the actual gold standard versus the stuff that just makes us feel like failures?
This is the big one. We have to talk about Atomic Habits by James Clear. It is a phenomenal book for neurotypical people. It's a bestseller for a reason, but for an ADHD brain, it can be a massive source of digital and physical guilt. Clear's whole premise is based on habit stacking and incremental gains, but habit stacking assumes you have a consistent baseline of executive function to stack upon. If your stack falls over every 3 days because your brain literally forgot the first habit existed, the book starts to feel like a personal indictment.
It's the consistency requirement that kills us. Clear says, don't break the chain, but for us, the chain is made of wet noodles. If I miss one day, my brain tells me the whole system is ruined and I might as well light the notebook on height. But Korn, play devil's advocate for a second, is there anything in there we can actually use?
Maybe the 2-minute rule. If a task takes less than 2 minutes, do it now. That works because it bypasses the planning phase of the brain. It doesn't give the wall of awful time to build up. But the rest of the book? It's like reading a manual on how to be a professional athlete when you're currently struggling to walk to the mailbox. Instead of that, the real gold standard, the book that actually explains the mechanics of the brain is Driven to Distraction by Edward Hallowell and John Reedy. It's older, but it is foundational. It's less about, here is a planner, and more about, here is why your brain seeks stimulation. If you don't understand the why, the how of time management will never stick.
I tried reading Driven to Distraction. I got through chapter 1, found a footnote about dopamine, and spent 3 hours on Wikipedia reading about the history of neuropharmacology. I never finished the book. Is there a version for people who, well, for people like me?
Hilbert, that is the most ADHD response to an ADHD book I have ever heard. But that's actually why How to ADHD by Jessica McCabe is such a game changer. She's the one behind the massive YouTube channel. Her book is designed for people who can't finish books. It has TL, DR summaries, visual breaks, and it treats working with your brain as the goal, not fixing it. It literally has instructions on how to read it out of order.
I'd also add Extra Focus by Jesse J. Anderson to that list. It came out recently, around 2023 or 2024. Jesse is great because he simplifies these massive, heavy concepts into these very visual, easy-to-digest strategies. It's for the person who looks at a page of dense text and feels their eyes glaze over. It's like the difference between a textbook and a comic book. Both give you information, but one doesn't make you want to take a nap immediately.
But wait, Korn, aren't we just adding more books to the to-read pile? How does someone with zero focus actually get through Jesse's book without it becoming another coaster?
That's the beauty of his layout. You can flip to any page. It's modular. You don't have to read it linearly. It's like a cookbook for your brain. You just look up the recipe for the problem you're having right now, like how to start a task. You don't need to read the history of flour to learn how to make toast.
What about the emotional side? Because time management isn't just about clocks, it's about the shame of being late or the ADHD tax of forgotten subscriptions. How do we manage the feeling that we are just lazy, versions of everyone else?
For that, you have to look at Dirty Laundry by Richard Pink and Roxanne Emery. They are a couple where one has ADHD and the other doesn't. It addresses the friction, the shame, and the why can't you just do the thing aspect of time management. It's incredibly validating. If you feel like a broken person because you can't manage a calendar, read that one first. It's less about productivity and more about self-compassion as a prerequisite for productivity.
Does it have pictures? Or at least very short chapters? My attention span is currently being held hostage by a 10-month-old who just learned how to operate the television remote and keep switching the channel to the 24-hour weather network.
It's very conversational, Hilbert. It feels like a chat with friends rather than a lecture from a professor. It actually focuses heavily on the ADHD tax, that extra money we spend on late fees or replacing things we lost. It's the first book I've seen that says, hey, it's okay that you forgot the laundry in the machine for 3 days. It normalizes the struggle, which actually makes it easier to try again.
Let's pivot to podcasts. A lot of us with ADHD find it easier to consume information while we are doing something else, driving, folding laundry, or in Hilbert's case, chasing an anteater away from the electronics. Korn, I know you have some strong opinions on what's overrated here.
I do. I think Happier with Gretchen Rubin is often recommended in productivity circles, and while she has some great insights into human nature, her four tendencies framework can be frustrating for ADHDers. Most of us are rebels or obligers in ways that don't quite fit her neat boxes. It feels a bit too neat for the messiness of a neurodivergent life. It's like trying to put a square peg in a round hole, but the peg is also vibrating at 60 hertz.
It's the upholder energy that grates on me. The idea that you can just decide to do something and then do it? That's like magic to me. It's like hearing someone say they can just choose to have 20/20 vision. So what's the real deal then?
The I Have ADHD podcast by Kristen Carter. Specifically, everyone needs to listen to episode 147. It's titled The Wall of Awful. She borrows the concept from Brendan Mahan, but her explanation of why we hit a mental block before even starting a task is life-changing. It explains why a simple task like call the dentist feels like climbing Mount Everest.
I love that concept. The wall of awful is built out of past failures, shame, and the fear of messing up again. Every time you failed to call the dentist in the past, you added a brick to that wall. When you understand that you aren't lazy, you're just facing a psychological barrier, you can start to dismantle it. But how do you actually climb it? Does she give a concrete step?
She does. She talks about putting on your climbing gear, which is basically self-compassion and gentle transitions. Instead of staring at the phone and hating yourself, you acknowledge the wall is there. You say, okay, I'm scared to make this call because I'm embarrassed I haven't been in 3 years. Just naming the brick in the wall makes it smaller. It's the difference between fighting an invisible ghost and fighting a visible target.
And for shorter bursts, Hacking Your ADHD by William Kerb is fantastic. The episodes are usually 15 to 20 minutes. He gives you one specific hack, like how to use a kitchen timer or how to set up a closing ritual for your desk, and then he lets you go. It's perfect for that now or not now brain. It fits perfectly into the time it takes to unload the dishwasher.
I actually listened to an episode of Hacking Your ADHD while I was cleaning the kitchen. He suggested body doubling, which we've talked about before. I tried to get the kid to be my body double, but he just stared at me and ate a crayon. Surprisingly, the silent judgment of a 10-month-old actually kept me on task for about 10 minutes. But what if I don't have a judgmental infant available?
Hey, whatever works. That's the body doubling movement in action. There are actually dedicated resources for that now, right, Corn? Like FocusMate? How does that actually work for someone who is socially anxious?
FocusMate is less of a course and more of a tool, but it is the #1 hack for people who hate traditional time management. You book a 50-minute session, you get matched with a stranger on video, you both say what you're going to work on, and then you just work. The presence of another person, even a silent stranger on a screen, triggers the social motivation, part of the brain that we often lack when working alone. It's like a library study hall, but for your house.
It's basically outsourcing your executive function to a stranger in Belgium. But Corn, what if I'm too anxious to let a stranger see my messy office on camera? I feel like they'll judge my pile of to-be-sorted mail.
You don't have to show your office. You can just show your face, or even just have the camera pointed at your keyboard. Most people on there are in the exact same boat. They are trying to finish a dissertation or fold 3 weeks of laundry. There's a shared sense of we're all just trying to survive the next hour. I've seen people on FocusMate literally just washing dishes or organizing their sock drawer. Nobody cares about your mess because they're too worried about their own.
And it's much more effective than any to-do app. Speaking of which, we should talk about YouTube. Because if books are too much and podcasts are too passive, YouTube is where the visual learners go to thrive. It's the ultimate edutainment source.
How to ADHD is the obvious king here. Jessica McCabe's production value is insane, and she uses these great animations to explain things like executive function or dopamine seeking. But I've noticed some of the productivity YouTubers like Better Ideas or Ali Abdaal can be a bit hit or miss for our crowd.
The issue with channels like Better Ideas or even some of the more intense hustle culture creators is the framing. They often frame productivity as a matter of discipline and removing distractions. For an ADHD brain, removing distractions is like telling a fish to remove the water. Our brains create their own distractions. If the advice doesn't account for the dopamine deficit, it's just going to lead to a shame spiral. You can't just willpower your way out of a neurobiological shortage of neurotransmitters.
Precisely. If I sit in a white room with nothing but a notebook, my brain will start composing an opera about the texture of the drywall. I find that Catiosaurus on YouTube is a great counterbalance to that. She's much more neuro-affirming. She talks about the reality of living in a world that wasn't built for us. It's less about how to be a robot, and more about how to be a functional human who happens to have a Ferrari engine for a brain with bicycle brakes.
I like the Ferrari engine analogy, though mine feels more like a 1994 Honda Civic that makes a weird clunking sound whenever I try to think about my taxes. Is there anything for people who need a middle ground? Someone who isn't a hustle bro, but still wants to get things done.
We've all been there, Hilbert. Let's talk about the skip list for a second. This is important because there are some very popular systems that people spend a lot of money and time on only to have them fail. We need to give people permission to stop trying these things.
Let's start with the big one, Getting Things Done, or GTD, by David Allen. It is the Bible of productivity for the corporate world. It involves capturing every single task in a trusted system. Herman, why is this a trap for ADHDers?
GTD is a project in itself. The weekly review is the backbone of the system. You're supposed to sit down every week and process every single open loop in your life. For someone with ADHD, that weekly review is understimulating, tedious, and frankly, terrifying. We end up doing productivity porn. We spend 4 hours color-coding our labels in Todoist and moving tasks around, but we never actually DO the tasks. We organize the work to avoid the work. It's meta-procrastination.
It's the planner graveyard phenomenon. You buy a beautiful, expensive paper planner like a passion planner or a full focus planner. You fill out the first 3 days with your best handwriting. On day 4, you forget to do it. On day 5, you feel guilty. By day 10, the sight of the planner makes you feel like a failure, so you hide it under a stack of mail.
I have a drawer full of those. They're like tombstones for my past ambitions. Every January 1st, I buy a new one. By January 7th, it's a coaster for my coffee mug. I actually tried a bullet journal once because people said it was ADHD friendly. It just became another thing I failed at.
Bullet journaling. The original method by writer Carroll actually is ADHD friendly because he designed it for his own ADHD brain. It's meant to be messy and fast. But the internet version of bullet journaling, with the calligraphy and the hand-drawn watercolor mood trackers, that is an ADHD nightmare. It turns a simple list into an art project that takes 3 hours to set up. If you do it, stick to the rapid logging method. No stickers, no fancy pens, just a pen and a notebook. If it takes more than 30 seconds to set up a page, you've gone too far.
The alternative is undated planners or sticker planners, things like the Laurel Denise planners. They allow you to have a fresh start any day of the week without the judgment of the empty dated pages. If you miss a week, you just turn the page and start on the next blank one. No March 14th staring at you from 3 weeks ago, or even better, use something like Goblin.tools.
Oh, I love Goblin Tools. It's a free AI-powered site. You type in a big, scary task like clean the garage, and you click the magic wand button. It breaks that one task down into 10 tiny, manageable steps. Open the garage door, find a box, put one thing in the box. It removes the deciding what to do, friction, which is where most of us get stuck. It's like having a very patient assistant who doesn't mind explaining the obvious.
But corn, how does it know how much to break it down? Is it just a generic list, or does it actually understand the complexity of the task?
No, there's a spiciness level slider. You can set it from just give me the basics to I am literally a puddle of executive dysfunction right now. Please tell me how to pick up a sock. It's incredibly intuitive. It even has a formalizer tool to help you write emails and a judge tool to tell you if the tone of an email you received is actually angry or if you're just projecting. It's like a prosthetic for your social and organizational brain.
I used that judge tool on a text from my mother-in-law. It told me she was neutral but concise. I thought she was declaring war because she didn't use an emoji. It saved me a lot of heart palpitations and a very awkward phone call.
See? Tech that actually works. But let's talk about the heavy hitters, the courses and communities. Because sometimes you need more than a book. You need a group of people who get it. Corn, you looked into Dr. Russell Barkley's stuff. He's the tough love guy of the ADHD world, right?
Dr. Barkley is the legend in the field, but he's very clinical. He has the ADHD Academy, which is a series of courses. They aren't cheap, around $297 as of early 2026. But if you want the hard science and the most effective behavioral strategies, it's worth the investment. He's the one who explains that ADHD is a performance disorder, not a knowledge disorder. You know what to do, you just can't do what you know. However, if you want something more community-based, you have to be careful.
Right, the ADHD adult subreddit, for example. It is a massive community with millions of members. It can be a great place to vent, but is it actually helpful for time management?
It's a double-edged sword. On one hand, the validation is incredible. Seeing thousands of people who also can't remember to take the wet clothes out of the washing machine makes you feel less alone. But it can also become a doom-scrolling trap. You go in looking for a tip on how to manage your time, and 2 hours later, you're reading a thread about someone's tragic life story, and you've completely forgotten why you were there. You've replaced your original problem with someone else's trauma.
It's the misery loves company effect. Sometimes it's supportive, and sometimes it's just a giant circle of people commiserating without actually moving forward. What about the paid communities like ADHD, Actually, or ADHD Rewired? Are they worth the monthly fee?
Those are better because they have moderators and structured co-working sessions. It's basically FocusMate, but with people you actually get to know. ADHD Rewired also has coaching and accountability groups. They are intensive boot camps. They are expensive, but they provide that body doubling and community in a very structured way. It's not just a forum, it's a commitment. It's like a gym membership where the trainers actually call you if you don't show up.
What about documentaries? Sometimes I just want to sit on the couch and feel like I'm learning without having to actually do anything. Is there a Planet Earth but for ADHD brains?
The Disorganized Mind from back in 2008 is a bit dated now, but it's foundational for understanding the big picture. More recently, ADHD, The Big Picture, which came out in 2023, is excellent. It features a lot of the experts we've mentioned, Barkley, Hallowell, and it covers the whole lifespan. It's great to show to family members who might not get it. It explains the biological basis so they stop thinking you're just doing this to annoy them.
It's about shifting the perspective from this is a behavior problem to this is a neurobiological reality. When your partner or your parents see the brain scans and hear the experts, it changes the conversation from why are you so lazy to how can we support your brain? It's a tool for advocacy as much as for education. It turns the conflict into a collaboration.
We've covered a lot of ground here. Books, podcasts, YouTube, tech, and the skip list. But the real question is, how do you actually use this without getting overwhelmed by the resources themselves? How do we avoid the meta-resource trap?
This is where the second-order effects come in. If you join 8 communities, you now have 8 more sources of notifications and guilt. My advice? Start with 1 book. I'd suggest How to ADHD or Driven to Distraction, and 1 podcast. That's it. Don't binge them. 1 chapter a week, 1 episode a week. Treat it like a slow-release medication rather than a shot of adrenaline.
I would also suggest doing a resource audit. Look at your planner graveyard. Look at the apps on your phone that you haven't opened in a month. Delete them. Unsubscribe from the productivity newsletters that make you feel bad. Clear the digital clutter before you try to add something new. You can't fill a cup that's already full of old, cold tea.
I actually did that this morning while the kid was napping. I deleted 3 different habit tracker apps that had been sending me passive-aggressive notifications for months. I felt 5 pounds lighter. Then I realized I'd also deleted my banking app by mistake. But hey, progress. My phone screen is much less stressful now.
Small wins, Hilbert. Small wins. The goal here isn't to become a productivity ninja. The goal is to build a life that is functional enough so you can spend your time on the things you actually care about, like your family, your work, or even just a hobby that isn't organizing your life. We want to spend less time managing our time and more time living it.
Let's talk about the dopamine menu idea from Jessica McCabe. This is a great practical takeaway. Instead of Eat the Frog, where you do the hardest, most boring task first, you start your day with a dopamine menu. You have appetizers, 5-minute tasks that give you a quick win, like making the bed or clearing one corner of your desk. You have mains, the big tasks, and you have desserts, the fun stuff you do as a reward.
The eat the frog advice is terrible for ADHD. If you try to do the hardest task first, you often hit task paralysis. You stare at the screen, your brain refuses to engage, and 4 hours later, you've done nothing but refresh your email and feel bad. If you start with a dopamine appetizer, something small and interesting, you get the engine running. It's like warming up your car in the winter. You can't just floor it immediately.
My dopamine appetizer is usually looking at vintage synthesizers on eBay, but I think I'm doing it wrong because I never get to the mains. I just end up looking at Moogs for 3 hours and then realizing it's lunchtime. How do I stop the appetizer from becoming the whole meal?
The trick is to set a timer for the appetizer. Use a visual timer like Timo or a time timer. It uses progress bars rather than numbers. When the color runs out, the appetizer is over. It's like a visual countdown for your brain. It makes the passage of time tangible. Numbers are abstract. A shrinking red circle is a physical reality that your brain can actually process as danger. Time is ending.
We are coming to the end of this series, and it feels like we've just scratched the surface, but I hope this gives people a North Star to follow. We've tried to provide a map of the territory so you don't have to wander aimlessly. Hilbert, we have one final piece of homework for you.
Oh boy, here we go. Is it going to involve more wooden trays or perhaps a color-coded filing system for ant food?
No trays. We want you to pick one resource we mentioned today, just one, and engage with it this week. Whether it's listening to Kristen Carter's Wall of Awful episode or trying out FocusMate for one 50-minute block. Just one. Don't try to do the whole list.
I think I can handle one. I'll try FocusMate. Maybe a stranger in Belgium can help me finally organize my digital photo library before the kid turns 11 months old and I have another 1,000 photos to deal with. I'm actually looking at the website now. It looks surprisingly simple. I like that there's no fancy onboarding process.
That is a bold goal, Hilbert. We believe in you. Just remember, the goal is the 50 minutes of work, not a perfectly organized library. If you only organize 10 photos, that is 10 more than you had yesterday. That is a success. Don't let the all or nothing thinking sabotage the something.
And to everyone listening, remember that this is a journey. There is no perfect system. There is only the system that works for you today. If it stops working tomorrow, that's okay. You aren't broken. You just need a new tool or a different approach. Don't beat yourself up for the planners you didn't finish. They were just data points on what doesn't work for you. Every failure is just an experiment that yielded a negative result.
We'll keep the resource list updated on our website at myweirdprompts.com/resources. If you found something that worked for your ADHD brain that we missed, maybe a specific app or a niche book, email us at show@myweirdprompts.com. We genuinely want to know. We're thinking about doing a follow-up. Listener favorites episode in a few months.
This has been My Weird Prompts. This series has been a blast to put together. Big thanks to our producer, Hilbert Flumingtop, for braving the mic and sharing the trials and tribulations of life with a 10-month-old anteater. We hope the compost bin enjoys the 7 habits.
And a huge thanks to Modal for providing the GPU credits that power the AI behind this show. We couldn't do this level of deep dive without them. They are the silent partners in our quest for productivity.
If you've enjoyed this series, or if it helped you understand your own brain or someone else's a little better, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps other people who are drowning in planner graveyards find us. It's the best way to support the show.
You can also find us on Telegram. Just search for My Weird Prompts to get notified when we start our next series. We've got some fascinating stuff lined up involving the psychology of nostalgia and why we all want to buy things from our childhood. It's going to be a deep dive into the retro brain.
Until next time, stay curious, be kind to your brain, and maybe check the fridge for your keys before you leave the house. You'd be surprised how often they end up next to the milk.
Good advice. See ya.
Bye.
This episode was produced using Google Gemini 3 Flash, text-to-speech by Chatterbox.
Thanks for listening to our show, my weird prompts, where our thoughts go from slow takes to facts on cue. We change and follow through. My weird prompts, that's the close from sloth, from man, from long-eared host. My weird prompts, until next time, stay curious, keep